Okay, this is a throttle body. Normally this is mounted to the intake manifold on your engine, and the air enters the engine through this throttle. The butterfly here, the throttle plate, the further it's open, the more air can enter, and that's the closed position. This throttle body is electronic. Uh, what I'll show you today is a throttle body on a cable operated, which is no electronics, just controlled by a throttle cable. I have two more of these throttle bodies, electronic throttle bodies, here on the workbench because I replace a lot of electronic throttle bodies. There's a lot more parts to them. They're more complicated. There's more to go wrong, and they fail pretty often. The cable operated throttle bodies, you never have any problem with them other than the cable itself. But one thing that all the throttle bodies have in common is a lot of carbon buildup over time, over mileage. You get a lot of carbon buildup on the back side of this plate. You can see the worst of it. This is the front, this is the back side. It's like I said, it's common on all of them. You know, I've blocked this one open so you can see the throttle plate. When you're cleaning these things, because you do need to clean that carbon out occasionally, the important part to clean, to be very sure it is clean, is this edge. Both sides, but the edge is the most important. Some people be sure and clean the plate off on the sides, you know, because it's easy to reach, it's easy to see. But that's not actually the most important part to clean. It's this edge, the side of it, the very edge. The reason being, when this throttle plate is closed, like that, the only air that's going to come in is on electronic is the air that bypasses the throttle plate when it's closed. If there's carbon there, it blocks part of the air, and it changes your idle speed, your minimum air that's allowed to bypass. And on a cable operated, it works the same way as, but it has an idle motor that will allow some of the air to bypass the edge there. But it has an effect on the idle speed and what the idle motor has to do on a throttle cable operated system. We'll take a look at one. We're still on this on the front side of this electronic control. I wanted to show you one more thing. See, there's no hole inside the throttle bore other than what the throttle plate's covering. So the throttle plate, what bypasses the throttle plate, is the only air that's entering the engine. Okay, I've removed the engine cover and the air intake hose, and this is the throttle body. There's the throttle cable. That's the cruise control cable. This is the throttle position sensor. This is the idle air control, idle motor. The reason it's called idle air control is because it controls how much air will bypass the throttle plate. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, I've placed a mirror in there where you can see the port at the top of it's at the top of the throttle body. So the only way I could get a good shot of it is with the mirror. Sorry for that. But the port, you can see the port there. that's where the air is drawn in by the idle motor. And when the idle motor, it has a pintle that closes and opens, and as the more further the pintle opens, the more air enters through that port, and that air bypasses the throttle body, the throttle plate. The throttle cable, when it's released, the throttle plate's closed. It's spring loaded, so anytime you're not accelerating and you're not touching the accelerator pedal, then the throttle is closed. So the way the idle is controlled is by the amount of air allowed to enter through that port. Okay, now I'm going to drop it in gear. And back to park. Okay, I think we've done a pretty good job cleaning it up. Remember, the important parts are where the throttle plate is going to be against the bore and on the edges of the throttle plate. Okay, we've got everything back together. The idle air counts, you can see the difference. The higher the number there, the further the pintle is opening to allow it to idle. Now it's not having to work nearly as hard. These points here we're doing an idle relearn, so I let it idle a while and then I drop it in gear again and watch it speed up, and then cycle the air conditioner. That's the two humps there. Then we're back down because it's still updating. It's still learning the new idle position. So as it's driven more, now that it's cleaned, and as it's driven under normal conditions, you know, stops, goes, defrost on, air conditioner on, steering, everything, it will eventually, it should be 26 or below. Should be your idle air counts. So, good job, right? Thanks.